Welcome to the Secret Sauce Podcast. This is a show about relationships with staff, with students, with yourself, with building culture in your classroom, your school, your district, and becoming personally developed so that you can be professionally developed. Be sure and follow our podcast so you don't miss a show. And we're booking now for the 23-24 school year for any type of PD that you need, keynotes, seminars, workshops. Just get in touch with me. I would love to come to your school, your district, and share the secret sauce with you. So let's jump right into the next episode. Here we go. Welcome to episode 26. And today I've got a really special guest, Mark Goodson. I met Mark when I was about a year or so into my recovery through some recovery programs. Mark is a teacher and an ex-football coach. And so we had a lot of things in common, education and recovery. And we became close and were able to lean on each other and grow with one another. And I'm just excited to have him on and let him share his story with you guys. Mark, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me on the Secret Sauce, Kip. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, this is amazing. Tell us a little bit about your story and with recovery, and then how that's led you into that calling as a teacher.
Yeah, well, in brief, I hit bottom at a young age, relatively speaking. I think I was about 24 years old, just a little over a year out of college when I first got sober. But when I was in my bottom, I was living in Los Angeles and working at a talent agency for film and TV talent. And I guess by a lot of accounts, the outside looking in might have thought I was kind of living that dream. I had moved west. I grew up in New York. I moved all the way to California, and I was kind of doing my own thing and making my way in that world, and I mean, I was working on Wilshire Boulevard and wearing a suit every day, pushing a mail cart, earning minimum wage, and having lunch with other assistants to different agents. And I was writing a script and partying really hard. And but that's kind of the end of a long journey. I won't get into the whole journey, but I was absolutely miserable out there. And I was so miserable, I was kind of the last person to realize how miserable I was. So I'm a drug addict. I'm an alcoholic. I sort of get hooked on things that I always say I get hooked on anything that makes me think I could change how I feel. And,
Right.
Alcohol, drugs, man, they really do change how you feel. So that was an easy thing for me to be hooked on. I had a pretty grisly bottom as far as my mental state goes. I came in, my first sort of week sober was spent in a mental hospital. I mean, I was trying to sort things out after a pretty long spree that landed me there. And after that, it was a 28-day rehab experience. And I put together and strung just enough sanity and clarity to come out of that 28 days, realizing I was an alcoholic and that I needed to get more help when I left. And, teaching was a thought that I probably had, right, probably the same amount of time that you just said you had when we met. That's around the time when I realized I wanted to get into something teaching, coaching, because I kind of, I wanted more. Obviously, Los Angeles, Hollywood, none of that stuff was very fulfilling for me. There was a point just looking around in my time there where you see the people and you should surround yourself with people you really look up to, people you admire.
Right.
And there just weren't a lot of people, I guess, that I could admire in that world. And I remember kind of thinking back on my life, just how many powerful teachers, coaches, people in my life who kind of mentored me. And I was writing a lot, and I knew I wanted to keep that going. And so I kind of had a theory that, well, if I teach, I could write in the summers and I can, give back and be of service, which is important in recovery,
Right.
And so I figured I could kind of find a professional way to do all that good stuff I was doing, which was staying sober and writing and, staying committed to work and friendships and all the stuff that I had, with the year sober, 2 years sober, staying in touch with family better than I ever had. And so teaching was just sort of this thing I thought I'd try. And I don't really know when it crossed over into a career. It just sort of snowballed. I mean, now I look back and it's like, man, I love it so much. I really enjoy, all the creativity that goes into it, and, the day-to-day contact with young minds, trying to
Right.
do what I can to mold and shape them. And I do think it's kind of goes hand in hand with sobriety. It's, being of service, I think, is a really valuable tool to stay sober, because you don't think about your damn self so much when you're helping other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think teaching is a great way to like force myself to think about others and care about others and not get so obsessed with my own wants, needs, and desires, that I just mentally kind of spiral out of control. And so teaching, I've been at it as long as I've been sober. I got minus 1 year. I just celebrated 15 years sober. So I've been teaching for 14. And, I hope to continue doing it.
Yeah, that's reminded me when you were sharing your story about ours is so similar with spending. I spent, I think, 4 days in a mental hospital and then a 30-day stint in a rehab, and and it's just. But what you said about the service to others, one thing I know for me, that recovery has taught me, that's really made me the educator and coach and thing that I am, is just that I learned through that process of recovery that it wasn't about me. But I think because before in my career as a teacher and a coach, it was all about what I could achieve and what awards I would get, and especially when I was going through the really rough patches near the end, I needed those kids in that classroom to be in those seats because they were my joy. They were my breath. It was my lifeblood, and I needed that from them. And then recovery really taught me that, being of service and that that when we give to other people, we get back all those things that we always sought after to begin with, and that's just been a major thing for me lately. And so I was going to ask you, as a almost 15-year teacher and in sobriety, what are some of the things that being sober and being a man in recovery has taught you or given you to make you even a better educator than maybe you would be if you weren't sober or hadn't gone through that experience?
Yeah, I think about I think about something you posted recently, which is like imagine that kid that is pissing you off to no end, and imagine that kid is the one who's going to go change the world because you gave him a chance that day.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like being in recovery, working with others in recovery. Getting honest about who I am, like the way you were talking before you started recording. We were just catching up, where it's like, you really don't think or concern yourself with the past at all. It's like everything is, we look forward, we move, and we stay present, and so something about I don't know. I feel like I have this superhuman ability because of the program. It's not like this is anything I did, right? But I do feel like people have taught me and shown me so much tolerance and love, and people have shown me these things, right? And so I just try to give back what people gave me. And what happens is, I have all this patience for these kids. I mean, I got it's like I don't take things personally. Like I can understand that they're going through all these things because, man, I went through it too. And, I kind of have all that in my daily interactions, kind of in that, I guess, in the wisdom I've earned. Right.
Right.
So like these kids, man, it's like they're not getting under my skin. I mean, it's like, I've been through enough where it's like what these kids think of me is the absolute last of my problems. I mean, I'm
Right.
trying to do something else. Like so I feel like a lot of I teach high schools, and it's an all boys school. So, I think I have a lot of that teenage angst that comes into the room, and they play, if they want to try to play those games, those, those games that, young men play, it's like, I'm not participating in that, but here's this other game I want to play with you, so I don't know. I feel like recovery. It's hard to separate out like like what recovery has given me, because it's almost like I don't even know. Recovery's given me so much. I don't even know what part of me is not impacted by my sobriety. I
Yes.
can't tell. It's like it's such an overhaul from how I used to live. Like it's
It's
so
hard to
night and day.
quantify, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like it's
Yeah.
so hard to say like, man, well, this is the recovery thing. It's like, shoot, what do I do that's not recovery, man? It's like teaching, like teaching high school, chipping away, raising kids, everything to me just seems like that daily, grind. And it's such a one day at a time. Everything is such a one day at a time experience for me, that it's like it's hard to say what's not. But I definitely would say like having a tolerance, for others, and like a patience to deal with people's problems, right? I don't think I would ever have this sort of patience if I didn't have all of these people show me the way.
Yeah. And that Mark, that's what I would call your secret sauce.
That's right. No,
And so you're
absolutely.
you're dealing that out every day in that classroom and those with those kids, and that like you said earlier, that's your superpower
Yeah.
to really forming those relationships that not just allow you to propel them academically, but just as people. And, you're going to have so many people. I know you do already. Um, and I just know you do because I know my experience and with the recovery thing. It's just really allowed me to have so many connections with kids
Yeah.
that are now 5, 6, 7, 8 years, 9, 10 down the road, and they'll message me and say, hey, I'm getting married, and and the last time I saw them, they were 14 years old, and now they're 22, and what you said when you get back to school from recovery and from rehab, and it's just those kind of things that I think that, like you said, it's so hard to quantify, but
Mm.
that one day at a time, just serving other people,
Mm.
um, that's a gift. That because before it was so much more about we didn't know how we were going to live that day, but we
Mm.
were trying to figure out how we were going to live the next day and the next week and the next month, and it just allows us to be so present. And I think it's cool you mentioned it allows you to be so tolerant
Mm.
of what other people are going through. I think as educators, that's really important because I think we forget that way too often, that we have no idea what those kids out there are experiencing that walk into our rooms.
Yeah.
And when they encounter someone like you who can tolerate them and listen to them and be there for them and know that they are cared about, it just makes a big difference. Um, I don't think I've ever asked you this in the time that I've known you, but I this for all of our listeners out there. Mark has a blog and it's called The Miracle of the Mundane, and it is an amazing blog. It's a top 10 recovery blog, but I think anybody can glean some wisdom from what he writes. But how did you come up with the Miracle of the Mundane, and what does that mean?
So, well, thanks for that. I appreciate like the praise for the blog, because it's, I mean, we talked about this before, but we do what we do. We put it all out there, but at the end of the day, you don't really know what the other end is like, what the receiving end is like. You know, like you probably don't know that I'm sitting there watching your Instagram halftime speeches and stuff like that, getting all
Yeah.
psyched up to go teach, you know, but it's like you don't really know. You can get a like, but you don't know if people are actually reading and appreciating what you're putting out. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
But the miracle of the mundane, it was a phrase that I heard uh, in the circles, you know, in the recovery circles, and it's a notion that when we're in our addictions, right, we're sort of pretty high or pretty low. We never really learn how to fly straight, and we don't, you know, I was very hooked on, as much as anything, always sort of the adrenaline and the rush of living in a risky way, or and you kind of get hooked on, you know, you're either climbing a mountain or falling off a cliff. And
Yeah.
once recovery hits, you realize, you know, there's this middle ground you can walk. You know, every day doesn't have to be the best day you've ever had or the worst. You can try to shoot for the middle and walking that path. Um, so the miracle of the mundane is a way to describe how amazing everyday life can be, like small things. So I write and reflect. I post once a month about these small little things I realize in the course of a grind, right? In a time when, because it's, for me, it's kind of like an antidote to that drudgery, right? Because I mean, like, teaching's hard, man. Raising kids is hard, right? Having family, you know, being a husband,
Yeah.
these things, you know, these are these are topics you've covered extensively yourself, right? So,
Right.
but it's so, doing all these things is tough, man. And it's sort of like, if you don't stop and realize how amazing it all is every now and then, it'll just seem like a bunch of tasks you have to get done every day, and there'll be no joy or no love in it, you know. And I really fall victim to that, man. I sometimes, it just seems like I have this endless barrage of stuff I got to get done and
Yeah.
responsibilities I got to meet. But man, it's like, you know, that's not what it's about. It's you know, it's about being there, like being present, like you've said, you know. And when you're present and you can be in those moments, and you know, you can be of service to others, and you can be of most service to those people that are closest to you, and man, is that a struggle, you know.
Yeah.
When you can find the joy in that, you know, it's a miracle. At least it was for me, because never in my life before I lived it would I sit here and say that I wanted to be a high school teacher and have a 30-year mortgage in the suburbs with a family of five. And never in my life would I have told you that if I had chosen that boring road, that I would be happy beyond measure.
Well,
So
family's growing too, isn't it?
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
my youngest is actually 3, man, if you can believe that.
Wow.
So yeah, yeah, I kind of dropped off social media a little
Hey,
bit.
that's awesome though, man.
Yeah, we were
And
really hanging out, I think, when my middle daughter was just born. But
yeah, yeah. Because last time we did a an interview, I think that you had to barricade yourself in one of the rooms of your house because they kept coming in there or something.
yes, yeah.
But you know, when you describe, I love the way you described that, the miracle of the mundane, and what it means, and it made me think about, you know, like you said, teaching's hard, um, especially right now, and in our district, it's really rough, and
Mm.
it's been like you got so much on your plate, and there's such a grind, and it's like, when are you going to get a break? And yesterday there was this girl in my mentor class, and then she's also in my second hour, and she just giggles all the time. And she ran into a tree branch and she had to put a band-aid on her head, and so I was making fun of her, and every time she came by me I'd go, tree, you know. And but you know, her laughing, giggling, and I was so irritated the other day of everything going on,
Yeah.
and I started to get angry at her, and I
Mm.
kind of stepped out in the hallway and I could just hear her giggle, and I was just like, that's a miracle.
Mm.
It's so much joy.
Man.
You know,
That's
so
that's the moment though. That's so cool.
yeah,
Like that's,
it is.
man, if we could all just try to look for those moments. It's kind of like I'm no golfer, but it's like every now and then when I do play, if I play 18 holes, maybe I'll hit one good shot, and usually
Better
that's
than
enough.
me.
Yeah, says that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking once a year, maybe. So, but it's like, you hit one good shot and it's enough to say, yeah, I'll go golfing. If someone
yeah,
asks you, hey, you want to go hit some? Be like, yeah, I'll go. It's like sometimes that's life. It's like you just need that one moment of laughter, and
yeah,
it can be the solution to all that issue that you bring, all these problems that are coming at you. It's like sometimes you just
yeah,
need to hear that giggle.
yeah. Of course, I don't golf, but I mean, I haven't golfed sober. Let me put it that way. Because I was usually after about the third hole, I was just driving the cart so I could drink, so I couldn't play anymore. But last question I've got for you is since you've been teaching, is there a particular relationship that's really affected you, or maybe a relationship that you formed with a student that's just really impacted your life in a profound way?
Yeah. I'm trying
That may be
kind of.
hard. It may be hard. I mean, maybe the first one. I think I'll ask that, and I can think of a different one each time. But
Yeah,
just
give me one of yours.
there's this kid named Oscar, and when I was teaching in Tulsa, I think it was kind of around the time that we started connecting and everything, and met up, and but he was in a seventh grade geography class, and I was trying to teach the kids about what their why, and it's such a cliche thing nowadays with why and purpose and all that, but it's important. And of course, they all wanted to be, or they thought their why was what their occupation or their job was going to be, and so they all wanted to be, a celebrity or um, an engineer or in the medical field or law or something that made a lot of money and carried status, right? And so I was trying to get through to them. It was like, no, that's what you do, but why?
Hmm.
Why are you going to do that? Because if it's just for the money or the status, it's not going to be fulfilling to you. And so this kid in the back of the room stood up and he raised his hand. His name was Oscar, and he goes, "I got it, Shu," because kids called me Shu.
Hmm.
And I said, "Okay, Oscar, explain." He goes, "My why is that I want to protect my family." And he was
Hmm.
an Hispanic kid. He was an immigrant. I think he was a dreamer. His parents were probably here illegally. And so I asked, explain, tell me more. And he goes, well, I'm going to graduate from high school with honors. I'm going to go into the military. I'm going to get into officer school. I'm going to become an officer, and I'm going to make a career out of being in the military so I can protect my family and I can protect the ones I love. And I
Wow.
was like, boom, everybody, Oscar nailed it.
Yeah.
He'll do that because there's something inside of him more than and powerful and bigger than just him and money and status that he wants to do with his life. And he's got it figured out. And
Wow.
that has stuck with me, that a 12, 13-year-old boy from Mexico who spoke broken English could understand and just articulate that to the rest of the class in that way was just, it really moved me, and it's always stuck with me about remembering what my why is, which is to lead and love kids to believe and discover that they are the greatest miracle in the world.
Hmm.
I had that posted in my classroom, and I just always, that story always reminds me to stay true to that why, why I do what I do. And
That is
again, it
awesome, man.
goes back to service, and
Yeah.
serving other people.
Well,
So I don't.
and there's that kid. He's always like kind of, like felt that probably based on an instinct, right? Or based on
Right.
his experience or whatever. But then he states it, and now it's like a superpower. It's his secret sauce, right? Like
That's
like
right.
he's naming it, and he's turning something that probably everybody, I imagine even a lot of his classmates probably saw as a negative. And now
Right.
he's the coolest kid in class. Now it's like, oh
Yeah.
wow, he's got something real going on, right? He's got real stakes, and he's only, how do you say, 13 or 14? Like,
Yeah.
man, that's cool.
Seventh grader. And it's funny because I was just that you asked me that back in return. I was just thinking about him today and trying to figure out like how old he would be now, and he would have graduated, I think, last year or the year before, so he would be on his way. And I just wonder, where is he and what is he doing? Is he in the military? Is he doing what he knew he wanted to do?
Yeah.
And it's just the things that I don't, as educators and teachers and coaches and administrators and support staff, I just sometimes think that we may overlook or forget that we can have such a profound impact in these little miracle of the mundane ways, on kids that will just really alter the trajectory of their lives and make a huge difference, and some we may never even know about.
Yeah.
It's just such a cool profession to be in. And
Yeah.
Mark, I am just honored that you took the time. I'm glad that you got a break while your girl's in gymnastics, to meet with me and share with me. And again, I want to encourage the listeners to check out the Mark's blog, The Miracle of the Mundane. You will glean and take away a lot of good little nuggets from what he puts out each month. It's just he's an amazing writer and author. And if you just give me one last, before you go,
Yeah.
give me one last something or takeaway for people that are listening, especially our educators that are listening. Just one last takeaway for them to kind of keep in mind as they take on this tough profession and keep sharing that secret sauce.
Something, I guess, that I was thinking about recently, because I'm always teaching is so fulfilling for all those reasons you mentioned. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, I got to think about my why, which is something I'm going to take away from this conversation for real. Like, but I know it's in there because I keep on trying to be better in the classroom every year.
Yeah.
I don't stop. And so I know it's in there, but I don't know if I've ever really said, this is why I'm doing this, which is, could be really powerful for me if I ever realize that. But, it's, man, the only reason to ever look back is just to see how far you've come. And, if you can, look back in the past to realize that. And I think as a culture too, I think there's so much time spent right now. We live in such abundance, and yet all we can do is kind of look backwards and see the opposite. And I think just having a good appreciation for all that we get to do, and whether it's educators or students, and realizing that there's a whole lot more still to be done. But just because there's a whole lot more that still needs to be done doesn't mean we haven't come a long way. And
Right.
I think just being appreciative that we are all, on this journey, and whatever we can bring to the table for one day, man, that's enough. And trying to just live with a little bit of appreciation and gratitude for any moment we get to share. For these, for this half hour, me and you got to just, shoot the breeze. Like,
Right.
just trying to be like, I'm so grateful to have this conversation with you for one. Like seriously, been looking forward to this since you pinged me with the idea. And I don't know, just finding those little things, big things, whatever things you need to find, man, that just keep you excited about going about what you're doing, and doing it with gratitude and a little bit of thankfulness, I guess, would be, I don't know, that's good for teachers out there in particular, because sometimes it just feels like there's just, it's a suffocating profession at times, where you just feel kind of buried by the work and the stress and the attitude. And so just realize, it's like these kids are on a path, and they're going to get someplace. And like you were saying, maybe you can help them a little bit. Maybe you can't, but man, the ones you do help,
yeah,
you are not just helping them cross the street. You're building a bridge to a better life.
right.
And if you can do that for one kid each year, it's worth it.
Absolutely worth it.
Yeah.
Mark, I'm honored, honored to call you a friend, and honored to share this space with you in this time. And thank you for sharing a little bit of the miracle of the mundane with the secret sauce.
Yeah. Hey, I'm happy to be on and happy to catch up with you, Kip. And you're an inspiration. So keep on doing what you're doing, because I'm watching, and it's an inspiring thing. So
all right,
keep it up, brother.
We will do it. Thanks again, Mark.
Let's do it, Kip.
All right. Bye-bye, guys. Bye. Hey, we appreciate you listening to our podcast. Let's connect and impact lives together. Leave me a comment on this episode, or find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube at The Secret Sauce with Kip Schubert. We would be honored if you would share this episode on your social media. Continue to share your story. It matters. Reach back over that mountain. Every educator, every student needs to feel loved, heard, and valued. So dish out that secret sauce and be that Sherpa to guide others to the summit. Till next time, let's stay all in and all together.